right click and save. So
Mhm.
there's the right click and save, and then we're already starting to see this where there's like social stigma associated with
Mhm.
that. Like we're starting to see like you don't own that ape. Like I just
Mhm.
saw someone recently try to get all of the apes to hate on some guy who had right clicked and saved and changed his Twitter profile. And because someone
Mhm.
said, that's my ape. Here's, here's the transaction. I
Yeah.
own that. Here's my wallet, but this person is using it. And, a couple people came back and said, yeah, that's terrible. And other people are like, I don't think I know enough information about this. Like I just see your tweet. I don't feel like I can pile on. And maybe that was, there was Twitter, but actually I think I was seeing this in the Discord. So in any event, people were sort of saying, we'll just have to figure this out. I think it's so there's that piece, and then there's this other thing around the stolen apes
Mhm.
and what happened there. So we have this one where people are just sort of they're borrowing your so
Yeah.
your the thing you own, and maybe they're positioning as if they owned it, or they're not being clear about it, whatever. But then we have this other thing where they're stolen.
Mhm.
So someone lost 3 apes in a transaction. Uh, I think I want to say that they thought they were talking to OpenSea support,
Sure.
and they lost 3 apes, and then immediately went and said, "Hey, Twitter world, help me with this."
Mhm.
OpenSea responded by making it basically a non-tradable token on their
Mhm.
platform.
Yep.
I think Rarible um, did as well,
Did
and
the
maybe a
same.
couple
Yep.
others. So that reduced the liquidity. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean they can't get rid of it. They could do a direct transaction. There's lots of
Sure.
places they could do it. This is the beauty of decentralization. But
Mhm.
immediately the backlash. People have said, okay, this seems great in a perfect world. What about decentralization? What about this idea that just a couple of trading marketplaces could basically shut down the sale of this? And this was stolen, but they could do that for anything. They could be just like, I don't like that ape, or I don't like that NFT. I don't like
Yeah.
that artist that created that NFT. We are going to ban it. And this sounds a lot like this sounds like a Twitter ban or a Facebook ban.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we're gonna run into more and more of this where at what point what does decentralization mean and to whom? And it's hard. I mean, shit, we live in a democracy. Is a similar like at what point do your rights infringe on
So do you
mine,
think
right?
OpenSea should do that? I mean, like, what's your gut tell you?
So here's what I think. I think it's good that they took action because it causes this conversation right now, right? So it's good to take action, even if it's the wrong action, to learn what the right action is. I'm a strong proponent of that strategy, so long as you're not
Make
um,
mistakes so everyone can see your
make
mistakes and not
mistakes
make
as
them next
fast as
time.
possible. Yeah, there's an awesome quote from I think Pete Doctor of Pixar said that there's points in the filmmaking process where you get stuck, and the best thing you can do is make the wrong decision as quickly as possible. So I think in this case, it's actually not terrible. I don't really know what the answer. This is a hard question. Is there a site where you can go and learn about the history of an ape and say like, hey, I'm entering this ape number or this NFT number and seeing what happened, and like, oh look, these people said it was stolen. What's to stop a group of folks to form a DAO and just claim that a bunch of NFTs were stolen that never were stolen? Like we can create all
Exactly.
sorts of stories in a decentralized. So I do think at some point it's okay for an entity to say this doesn't jive with our value system, and then let their users decide if they want to continue to use that service or not.
Yeah.
But to your point, someone else can go somewhere else and find a way to swap this too, right? I mean,
Again, it doesn't just like this. I mean, I think
it's
I
not your only option.
yeah, I probably don't have a problem with it. So it's interesting to sort of couple this with the other discussion about this right click and save. So
Yeah.
in that case, the social penalty is potentially being paid by an individual, who is passing themselves off as an owner of something they didn't have.
Mhm.
Um, in this case, we'll forget about OpenSea for a second, and we'll just talk about the actual artwork. In this case, the stigma is associated with the artwork. And we've seen this before with stolen art. You know, some art
Yeah.
is like too hot to move, and then
Hmm.
what happens now? There's all these legal proceedings associated with recovery of stolen art, and which does not exist really for the NFT world yet. Although maybe it could at some point. So I wonder if this ape then becomes notorious, and does that mean it's too hot to handle? Or does that make it more valuable going forward because it's the
Yeah.
stolen ape?
Well, yeah, it's like the Wu-Tang album we talked about a couple weeks back, right? Like,
Right.
does it now have this history that's kind of intriguing? And there's a neat history of paintings being stolen that's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it makes me wonder. I know a lot of when this happens, I see a lot of people on Twitter trying to help the person out,
Sure.
um, and it's like,
Identify
is
who the
there?
person is, dox the person, create
Yeah,
this,
or try and buy it back, which is a
which is
weird thing
happening.
because yeah, and it's helpful to the person who lost it, and it's a great altruistic. I think it's good for the community as a whole to show that they're supporting one another, but it's also telling thieves that, yeah, hey, steal it, and then we'll just buy it back from you.
It's like the
Um,
ransomware. Like you pay the
yeah, exactly.
ransomware and you're just an enabler. So okay, so that was I think that's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with this. I actually think it's fine. OpenSea has to decide how it wants to navigate the world. Uh, Maybe they'll make a different decision in the future. Right now, they've made a decision that they don't want stolen property being sold on the site. That leads to maybe a slippery slope around how to determine what's stolen. Um, and we
Yeah, I
can
think
I
it's
can
going to
give
be
you
inevitable, right? They have to at some point they have to take a stand, and then wherever that line is, there's going to be arguments on either side of
yes.